traffic out there, Kevin.
We're heading to Timbuktu.
Could be worse.
Right.
I am Robert M. Price.
I'm Dr. Daryl Ray.
Hi, I'm Karen Lumley Kerr.
Hi, I'm Aaron Roy.
Hi, I'm Marissa Alexa McCool.
Hi, I'm Jerry DeWitt.
Hi, this is David Smalley from Dogma Debate.
Hi, this is Dan Barker.
Hi, I'm John McComb from The John McComb Show.
Hi, I'm Dr. Drance.
Hi, I'm Richard Carrier.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Tyson.
Hi, I'm Seth Andrews. I'm host of The Thinking Atheist.
Hey guys, I'm Kara Santa Maria.
Hi, I'm David Fitzgerald.
Hi, I'm Brian Keith Dalton.
Hi, this is Tom and Cecil from Cognitive Dissonance, and we took a left at the Valley.
We did take a left at the Valley.
And a wrong turn in Albuquerque.
And then the left at the Valley goes right to a glory hole. It's like right to a glory hole.
I know we shouldn't have to scream that we're atheists. You know, we don't have non-astrologers and all that. But the religious people taking over the world, I mean, we can either speak up or be pushed into a corner.
I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist.
Coming at you from Secret Lair in BC, this is Left of the Valley. My name is Kevin, and I thought that wearing glasses would make me look smarter. Then someone told me I need a stronger prescription. Joining me as usual is the team that established that a severed foot is indeed the best stocking stuffer. She asked her North Korean friend how it was there, and her friend replied she couldn't complain. Nancy.
Literally couldn't complain.
Oh my goodness. Well, at least that didn't put me in the position of having to defend myself in any way, shape, or form. Thank you for that one, Kevin.
And he's given up on a macho physique, and now he's going for strong, independent woman, Scott.
Woo!
She spent a year looking for her ex-killer, but nobody wants to do it. Christina.
How come nobody wants to murder me in cold blood?
Not you, your ex.
Oh, sorry, my ex. Wow, I'm not awake yet, guys.
And it may be the wine talking, but she really, 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 really likes wine. Kirsten.
I think you have that mixed up. I'm the one who likes wine.
Doesn't matter. Nobody knows.
Now they do.
It's like 3 minutes in the
really
show.
Likes her.
Guys, welcome back. We're going to have an interesting show today. We're going to be talking to the boys from POLITICOAST. That should be interesting. And our old friend Ian Bushfield. But first, we got lots of stuff to cover, so let's do some chit-chat. Did you guys hear that apparently the Alberta Conservatives, where is it? Okay. The Conservatives in Alberta are warning that legalizing pot might lead to communism. So I think we should get into the movie.
What? What? How did it connect to that?
Well, this is Ron Orr. He's the culture and tourism critic. And he says the link between pot and opium use, because pot is a plant, and opium is also a plant. So he says because opium is a flower, so which led to the Chinese Revolution because of opium use, and he thinks that this is what's going to happen here.
I don't think he understands the actual potency of pot versus opium.
No, I don't think he understands it at all. But either way, you can always rely on the conservatives.
Yeah.
I just love when the conservatives do these things like using X will lead to Y. It's like,
wait a minute. So we're talking about Alberta Conservatives, right?
Yes.
Wait a minute. So in history, I mean, we had assholes running governments like Hitler and Mussolini, and in Alberta they have assholes running the government like the Conservatives.
Well, right now it's the NDP though.
Oh, is it?
They
have conservatives in government. So if they vote them in, are we going to end up with World War IV?
God knows. God knows. It's all funny, all that. But something
cause and demand.
Effect.
Cause and effect. I mean, come on.
Speaking of interesting things also that happened on the international scale, did you guys hear about this Bosnian Croat general, Slobodan, I'm going to massacre this, Plazjak? He swallowed poison at his funeral.
Oh.
His funeral? No.
Not funeral, sorry, his trial. If you can
Boy, do
swallow
we all
poison
need
at your
coffee.
funeral,
There's a good trick.
Well, swallowing the poison led to his funeral.
Yes.
Yeah.
Someone's been reading Shakespeare.
He was at The Hague, obviously. He was sentenced to 20 years for war crimes, and he stood up and he basically says, "I am rejecting your verdict with contempt," and then took out a small vial and swallowed the liquid.
And it was video. But
it was on video.
Yeah, up to that point. And I think they turned the video off.
Then he had to clarify, I'm just drinking poison.
Yeah, because everybody was saying, "What are you doing?" And then he just declared, "Yeah, I just drank poison here."
Well, I'm thinking this is good. Somebody would have had to pay to keep this prick in jail.
Yeah,
and
well,
now he's dead.
But you have to wonder
Why is
how that little vial of poison ever got into his
He
hand.
probably paid someone off.
His lawyer.
It's easy to pay people off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Especially if you're like someone with connections. If you're a general, you probably have connections.
And it was probably like Coors Light in the vial too.
Yeah,
Well, apparently
probably.
he's a hero. He's a hero.
Instantly
in his
dead.
homeland. I mean, they chant his name and think he's a
I
hero.
guess he's going to be a martyr for
Yeah.
some people, I guess.
Yeah.
I go to the psychological on that because in my mind I keep thinking, what was he thinking all that day leading up to that moment? Was he deciding, will I or won't I?
Well,
Was he saying it's all going to be over? I mean, the
I think he
inner,
had his
the
mind
inner
made up.
thoughts of somebody who's that evil and terrible. Anyway, it's just, I just have a real curiosity
Mhm.
about the stream of consciousness.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
that's my wacky mind working.
Another story. Did you guys hear that the Canadian Prime Minister decided to apologize to the gays, to the
I
LGBT
did.
community?
He did, and I think it was really a sincere apology and something that was meant to be healing, don't you?
Yeah, he actually decided to give him $110 million for the victims of what they call the gay purge.
Yeah.
This is a 30-year program that ended in the 90s that was in the military, the RCMP, and the public service. So in other words, if you were somebody of the LGBT community and you were working for the RCMP, for example, you could have been outed and lose your job or something like that. And in compensation, he decided to, which I think is to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And apologize. So it's great that it's done now. And of course, I got to talk about, remember our old friend Mad Mike Rocket Man?
Yeah.
How did that go?
It didn't.
Shocker.
He postponed it twice. His launch was postponed, and I think there were some authorities that basically stopping him from doing so.
Regulatory issues.
And I was so hoping
Wasn't he wanting to do it on like public land?
something like that.
Yeah.
I so wanted him to do that and crack him crashing down.
Do you think that he really was prepared to do that, or in the back of his mind he really knew this is going to be a pretty good show, but thank goodness I don't have to actually launch this thing?
We'll never know. We'll never know.
Yeah.
Either way, it wouldn't
Either
have proved
way,
anything.
It was an interesting piece of news, and let's hope he pops up again with some other really great scheme we can laugh at.
Mm. Oh, and by the way, I remember a couple weeks ago when we interviewed Michael Sparks in the States.
Yep.
And he's a Bernie Sanders activist.
Yep.
His book just launched
Oh, fantastic.
on Amazon. Although he'll say he has to launch it on Amazon, but he would rather you actually contact him directly, and he will send you a copy.
Yeah,
and
well, he
probably
gets
autograph it.
way more revenue
Exactly.
through his, if you purchase it through
It's
himself.
good for him. Good for you, Mike. We're eager to actually read that.
Yeah, it was a great interview. Anyone who's listening can look up our interview with Mike
Sparks.
When was it during the summer? When was Michael here? Whenever, look up that
I was
interview. It was a
somewhere- I think
really
it was in October.
it was an excellent interview.
Oh,
and if you
absolutely.
haven't heard it, or even if you want to refresh your mind before you read the book, it's great to go back and check the podcast and listen to it again.
Did you guys hear there was a rally that was proposed? This is a pro-gun group that had the awful idea of doing a rally at the Polytechnic Memorial School in Montreal. This is where 14 women were killed in 1989.
What?
Yeah. This was to oppose the gun registry because Quebec decided to do their own gun registry.
Oh, good for
And
them.
in order to oppose that, they decided to do a protest there.
At somewhere where people had been murdered.
Exactly.
With
It was
guns?
an awful idea. There was a huge backlash, and they decided to back out of that really quick.
It was probably Americans that led them to that one.
I don't know. That's we'll never know.
The NRA would want that type of behavior.
Yeah, exactly. It was an awful idea. Thank goodness they had a
Yeah.
bit more sense.
Did they have a rally like at another location?
They were saying they were going to do a rally somewhere else, but I haven't heard of anything, so I don't know. And speaking of ass backward messages, Did you guys hear about this story about this 300-year-old Jesus statue that had a hidden message up its ass?
Oh my gosh!
Oh.
What a great place for a hidden message.
This was in,
How did someone find it?
well, in 1777, there was I guess it's a time capsule that was done by priest Joaquim Minguez, and it's a document that had the statue's sculptor, data on agricultural matters, common diseases, popular children games, and popular bullfighters of the time.
Oh wow, that's so fascinating.
Yeah, and it was inserted up Jesus' butt for some reason in the statue.
That seems like an awesome place to put it. I mean, I can imagine the chuckles from the priest.
Yeah, well, when he took down the
This
statue.
sense of humor isn't a new invention, guys.
So let's look at this practically. It's 1770. When was it? Okay, where would you put it?
Up his nose.
If you wanted
Well,
to
the thing is
hide,
the
if
head-
you wanted to
head
hide
can
it like
fall
a
off
little
easy.
time capsule, you've got certain orifices that are available.
Well, normally,
supposedly.
you're supposed to bury it in the ground. No.
Yeah, wouldn't you?
Well,
Time
wouldn't
capsule
you
in a
put
box.
it at the in a box
But-
at the foot of the
But I can understand his mentality, because if you put it there, who's going to actually start searching?
Well,
it
this
there,
is it.
right?
Yeah, I think it's kind of genius.
How did they find it?
They took the statue down and they wanted to clean it.
Oh, okay.
And when they found a little hole, there was a piece of cloth, and then when they kind of tugged on it, it kind of,
So you had to work
popped right
yeah.
out. And there it was, the time capsule.
I think it's great. I mean, it's sort of like a little hidden message, and who knew? I wonder if they thought the future generations would have to be, someone would have to be pretty clever to find it. I think it's neat.
I love the fact that the person who pulled it up probably thought they just broke the statue. Like, oh shit. I'm fired.
Poor guy starts tugging on Jesus' butt, right?
That would make a story in itself.
Did you guys hear about the latest PISA test, which is the Program International Students Assessment? And Canada figures in the top tier.
Nice.
Way ahead of the US, the UK, and
yeah.
France. At the university level, Canada has the highest proportion of workers age adults that went through higher education, which is 55%.
Really?
The OECD average is 35%.
Yeah, but what they don't tell you is 20% of those people were taken. Didn't we just do a thing on fake schools?
On fake school? Oh, the fake diplomas?
Fake diplomas.
Are you saying they're fake diplomas?
I'll bet you at least 20% of them are.
Oh, come on. You're pulling that out. You're pulling that out of your ass. You're doing a time capsule again here. Actually, to the point that if the provinces were to enter the contest separately as separate countries, Alberta, BC, and Quebec would still be in the top 5 in science.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
As well they should be.
Go
And
us.
The article stated that one of the reasons was probably because of Canada's sense of fairness. Teachers are actually well paid in this country as compared to other.
I think there's a very high percent in the news. I think there's a fairly high percentage of breakthroughs of one kind, whether it's technical or medical, that is conducted by Canadian researchers, Canadian sciences. They usually set the pace, for other research to follow. But a lot of breakthroughs come.
And
come from us.
another reason. Oh, sorry. You go first.
I was just going to say, look at the Ebola crisis. The Ebola crisis. They came up with
right.
a inoculation for people.
Yeah, it was done right here in the Canadian lab.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So things like that, and people never take notice of it because it's just common.
Yeah.
It's always been the weakness of doing everything on the private sector, because they go after what's lucrative, and finding a cure for Ebola is not lucrative.
Nope.
It's not. You want to find a cure for antacid or something. Stomach acid, that's lucrative, but Ebola.
But what I was about to say is another reason why Canada has so many people that are going on to further education is because we try to make it really easy. Like I went to college, but like right after, like I was actually still in high school when I went to college, and it was totally free for me. And because it was, the school district was wanting to encourage people finding a job they wanted and getting education and then going straight into the workforce.
Yeah. Also, one of the things they talked about is in Canada, they're highly selective about the teachers coming into the workforce. There's a strong base in literacy. Remember when we did that Canadian special, and Canada is actually one of the most literate countries in the world, if not the, and a narrow socioeconomic gap. The difference between the poor and the rich in Canada is about 9%, as France is 20%, and Singapore is 17%, and we're not even going to talk about the U.S.
I was about to be like, I wonder what the U.S. is.
There's also apparently what they call the Trump effect. Canada now is viewed as an alternative to the U.S. for immigrants. You know, why would you go study something in the U.S. and get a chance of being deported when you might as well?
And you can actually keep your culture if you move here.
Yeah, exactly.
We kind of embraced that.
Yep.
Did you guys hear that Newfoundland and Labrador schools won't participate in Operation Christmas Child?
I did hear about this.
That's the little charity where they have a shoebox and you put stuff in there. And then they ship it to kids around the world.
Which sounds good on the surface.
It sounds absolutely good.
It sounds noble till you read into it.
It's an evangelical group called the Samaritan Purse, but the volunteers the volunteers need to sign a statement of faith.
Yeah.
When they're volunteers for that organization. So they have to sign the fact that they do believe in God and they're anti-LGBT and all that. And Newfoundland and Labrador said, screw you, we're not supporting that.
And actually, they put a little note in the shoebox proselytizing.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, they put a note. Each little box has a little note.
They had a real problem with that in Newfoundland.
Yeah, and so the shoe boxes on their own are wonderful, but then there's a little hook, I think. When the child gets the shoebox, they want to actually have him either sign up for Sunday school or listen and so forth and so on. So that's a little, it's a good news, bad news kind of little.
Charities should be helping, not preaching. Yeah. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
And good for them for doing so. Who knows? I mean, it's sad because some children might suffer at the end there, but at the same time, hopefully this charity will decide to stop doing stupid things.
Yeah, well, especially in Canada, there are so many people who aren't Christian. You're cutting off a massive volunteer base. That if you just people want to help, if you just accept people who don't believe the exact same thing as you.
It's also one of the reasons why
you have to accept Jesus into your heart.
Yeah. I did. And then I realized that it wasn't real.
Right?
And then I realized Harry Potter was better.
and realized that Jesus might have something up his butt.
Yeah.
Time capsule. It's also one of the reasons why I'm not very fond of the Salvation Army. Not very fond of them either, just for that. But in good news on that side, remember Australia?
That's wait a minute. That's that continent on the southern side.
That's right. That's that big island there.
This is so exciting.
As they had a referendum, and they did say we're going to legalize same-sex marriage, and the Prime Minister came out and says we're going to do it before Christmas. It's done.
Yeah.
It is now.
Yeah, I was quite impressed with that. He kept his promise.
Yeah, he kept his promise.
Kept his promise.
And he didn't have to. He actually didn't have to because the plebiscite was not legally binding. Didn't have to, but they did.
Well,
so good for them.
The people spoke.
The people spoke. And at the same time, Austria, not Australia, but Austria did the same thing. But that won't happen to them until 2019.
That's so exciting.
But still, they're doing it.
Yeah.
It's right. I mean, when you look 10 years ago or 5 years ago, and you look today about the countries that have accepted same-sex marriage, it's a wave. It's going to there's always going to be, like, I doubt whether North Korea is ever going to be able to to come to, but you never know. But it is an acceptance that people are people and need to be respected regardless of who they are or what they believe.
And politically, when enough people in the country speak up, like in Australia, I guess it was some ludicrous amount. It was one of the highest turnouts. It was a phone poll.
Yeah.
But it was one of the highest turnouts for it because they're mandatory there.
Yeah.
It's when they call a vote, it's mandatory. You have to, and they had like 80 some odd % vote, and it was 60+% in favor of. And they said that's politically, that's almost unanimous. I mean, it's, there's no playing around there. You have to do what the people are asking for.
Cool.
So.
And of course, last but certainly not least, we got to talk about what happened this week, which is the news all over the place. Donald Trump coming out and declaring that Jerusalem is to be recognized as the capital of Israel. I don't know
That
why.
I have my
Did
own. I have my
you hear?
own views on this.
Did you
Did
hear?
that send shivers up anybody else's
Well,
spine
you know,
when
I
you
want
realized?
to start by asking you, because you're a resident Jewish lady, and you're the wandering Jew. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, actually, Jerusalem probably is the legitimate capital. However, because of all of the tensions, because of the complex nature of the peace talks and all of the decades that have been put into should it be one state, should it be two states, the embassy has remained in Tel Aviv. And every 6 months, the President of the United States signs that waiver saying, in essence, we're going to keep it here in Tel Aviv because that seems to be, until the peace talks find a legitimate solution, that seems to be where it is. And it was a bargaining chip. It was something that could have been used in order to help the peace talks along. But Trump, out of the blue, and maybe it was a conversation or a pact of some kind with Netanyahu, it's hard to tell, but for no good logical reason and just giving it away without even bargaining, he decides to make the statement to appease his base.
It's
because
worse than you think.
He will appease his base because his base is shrinking to about 32% at this point approval rate. So he figured as long as he's in office, he might as well do something because he may be impeached and not. I'm assuming this. It's not anything that's real, but the repercussions of that in terms of how all the other Arab nations and the rest of the world.
Well, there's already so many protests breaking out, and Israel just sent.
It's needless.
Well, Israel's starting to send missiles at an inch at militant bases and is freaking killing people.
Okay,
I mean,
wait a minute.
Trump has a stick, and he's looking for hornets' nests that he can disrupt. And this is exactly. No one knows what's in the mind of that lunatic to deliberately disturb the world for no other reason other than selfish ones for his own base.
Unconfirmed reports.
And aren't you glad you asked the little Jewish lady?
Of course.
Personally, my take on this whole situation, and I'm sorry if I piss a lot of people off here, I would love nothing more than to drop a 750 kiloton nuke on top of Jerusalem.
And the comments of Scott are not necessarily those of Left of Valley subsidiaries, etc., etc. No, the unconfirmed reports are saying that, of course, all his staff, the Secretary of Defense and all that, were saying, no, it's a bad idea.
Exactly.
But unconfirmed reports say that his biggest donors were egging him to do so.
Because they're evangelicals.
Because they're evangelicals. Evangelical donors have this thing about this wanting to see the end of the world in Armageddon, and they don't think this will happen until all the Jews are back in Israel, and then Jebus is going to come back and save them all. They are horny for the end of the world.
How does this play into that? Because he's declaring that he sees Jerusalem as the capital. Okay, that's fine, but the evangelicals, they're Christian.
Well,
Jerusalem is also a Christian base.
I know, but there's a prophecy apparently.
There's a prophecy, and so they want the Jews to thrive, because they feel that the rapture and the final final days.
This is that same prophecy.
That they're necessary in order to bring about the second coming.
This is the prophecy where the second coming was actually supposed to happen during the disciples' lives.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And then it was going to happen in 500
You're
AD.
not interpreting
And
it
then it
right.
was going to happen in 10 or 1000 AD.
Yeah, of course.
And then it was going to happen in 1834.
Yep.
And then it was going to happen 3 times last year. And guys, get over it. It ain't happening because it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And nuke Jerusalem and deal with the problem. Jesus.
Okay, well, I'm not sure if that's a good recommendation.
On that positive note.
No, I can totally understand that. But what the interesting thing about this is how are the other nations going to react to this? I mean, Canada's been kind of pro-Israel as well, but even though
We've
If
been
I was the prime
quiet
minister,
on
I'd be the
issue.
first one to say, "Whoa!" I'm not going to right away say, "Okay, we too think that
Mhm.
Jerusalem."
He should have. The prime minister and his cabinet should have stepped up and said, "This is wrong, Mr. Trump. You're wrong.
Yeah.
Don't do this."
Well, I
And
think they did. They
no,
just
they
might
didn't.
say
No, they
that.
didn't. They haven't said anything.
They haven't
They've
said
been quiet
anything
on
yet.
it.
Well, they just might say something, but anyway, and it's going to take years for that to happen too, because they also have to find a place now in Jerusalem and build it and do plans and all that. So it's not going to happen overnight.
Oh yeah, no, he didn't. He didn't say there was any time limit. He was just expressing himself, and of course that could put Americans at risk in the Middle East. One never knows, but if there is the wrong way to do something,
He'll do
like an arrow.
That was the way.
A target.
Instead of who was it was big on the peace process over there? It was Jimmy Carter, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Jimmy Carter was big on the peace process
really
over there,
was.
and they almost had a working peace
Seriously.
thing. Jimmy
They
Carter,
came
yeah.
close. They came
And
close.
after he was ousted as president,
Yeah.
after he lost, he still was the main negotiator over there. They would take him and use him as the voice of
That's
reason.
awesome.
I know our
Yeah.
American friends are not going to agree with this, but I think personally Jimmy Carter was one of the best presidents in my
Oh,
lifetime
yes.
they actually had.
Yes, he
This
was.
guy didn't fire a shot. I know he was installing solar panels on the roof of the White House.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously, he was
He was-
forward thinking.
And then of course Reagan came in and
tore it all out.
we essentially did a 30-40 year detour into
Oh.
conservative politics, and now we're
Yep.
just getting back to where Jimmy
Yeah,
Carter kind of
Jimmy
left us.
Jimmy Carter was one of the most forward-thinking
Absolutely.
presidents.
I mean, can you
Wow.
think? Can you think of a democratic country that at this point would want the U.S. to come in and help broker
No.
relationships, or
Yeah, stay the heck
just,
away.
you know,
Yankee, go home.
Yeah.
in less than 1 year, 200 and some odd years of working with other countries, well, mostly has been totally destroyed by one lunatic.
I wonder if Americans still think that they are like the leaders of the free
Oh, they do,
world.
they do.
They
Like,
do.
do they still
some.
think that?
Some. I think
I think they
there's a
do.
growing,
I think they realize that
Yeah.
unfortunately everything that has to do with the institutions, the good institutions, that the fabric of those is being ripped away, and the resistance movement is doing everything they can to get that guy out of office before
Yeah.
it goes any further. But they do feel that it can be restored, but the sooner the better, so that they don't have a lot of rebuilding
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do.
If they get the proper leadership, there's
Yeah.
Americans that they'll make America great again.
Oh,
Yeah, they've got to
That's-
find a Democratic a candidate.
They had a chance.
that-
It was
that
Bernie
comes
Sanders.
up.
They had that
Yeah,
chance. Anyway.
yeah. We'll have to see.
No,
but
we're not fighting on this, you and me. And that's it.
Fight,
We'll
fight.
have to see. No, I like
Yeah.
Bernie. That's not the point.
All right, my dear.
Yeah.
What do you got for us today?
Oh boy,
Are we doing this day?
I've got one of my very favorite stories today. I love. I
It's
started
Day in
this
History,
one.
right?
Yeah, this is a really, really great story on this day in history, which, as we know, is a roundup of those events and people that altered and illuminated the days between December the 5th and December the 11th. This is an interesting story. Ask a question. What does a brassiere company have in common with World War II? A pigeon vest. This is so
Yes,
great.
yes.
Way back in the early 1900s, a lovely little lady named Ida Cohn Rosenthal founded Maidenform Bras, and she became highly successful with her line of bras. They were well made. They didn't have the stays and all of. They were comfortable bras, and they were made to everybody's shape rather than having everybody try to fit into a pre-made shape.
I even have a pair.
Yeah, that's right. When World War II came along, the material to make her bras became very hard to get because they were all being converted to parachutes. So she wanted to find a way to use those materials still for bras and the war effort, so she could continue to make the bras and yet do what she needed to do for the parachutes. So she actually turned her factory into making the bras as well as doing the parachutes. So as fate would have it, 3 opportunities arose for using the bras. One was for women in service. The other were parachutes, and the third was bras for pigeons. Unlikely, but stick with me.
Only on this show do we talk about bras for pigeons.
I know. So this is the reason why. During World War II...
I'm telling you, a pigeon with a properly outfitted bra turns me on.
The
comments of Scott are not necessarily those of the
We do go off in lovely tangents. Anyway, during World War II,
you think so?
the troops were parachuted into territories with carrier pigeons, and the way they carried the pigeons was inside of their jackets, but that caused a lot of the pigeons to be injured or killed during descent. They were kept safe, but with the twists and turns and the tightness of those vests, they were losing a lot of the pigeons, and they were, as you know, the main way of communicating between the front action and then back where the what do you call the communication centers were. So if they could find a vest that would carry the pigeons safely, that would ensure they could fly back, that would be great. So the Army contacted Ida Rosenthal, and she and the pigeon team designed the pigeon vest. And the vest was made out of porous materials with a tight woven fabric underneath so the pigeon's claws wouldn't damage the mesh. I mean, they had to take the little pigeon bodies and their wings and their little feet and figure out how to do that. And the vest also included an adjustable strap for the parachuters to strap across their chests. So the vest was shaped to the body of the pigeon, leaving the head, neck, wingtips, tail, and feet exposed. Can you imagine testing this thing? Anyway, the vest would be attached to the outside of the paratroopers' jackets. This is very clever on how to do this. So once the paratroopers hit the ground behind enemy lines, they'd release the pigeons so they could fly off and deliver the important messages. 1944, Maidenform agreed to make 28,500 pigeon vests for the U.S. government, and they were all stamped with the warning: important, do not retain pigeon in vest in excess of 6 hours.
Poor thing.
I know, so they couldn't, put them on in the plane. They had to wait, so they had to have places that they could stay in the plane, and then they could. It was a chore. So
grab your chute and don't load your pigeon.
yeah, the pigeon carried messages in tiny capsules attached to their legs, and the capsules could contain messages, blood samples, or even tiny cameras that were used. And oftentimes the carrier pigeons, also called homing pigeons, were the only form of communication during World War II. They were also the most secure and reliable. So a little information about homing pigeons: they were the least likely form of communication to be intercepted. More than 95% of the messages they carried were successfully delivered. And due to their obvious necessity for wartime communication, approximately 56,000 carrier pigeons were trained for war missions in World War II. Wow. And that was the height of pigeon use. Average pigeon speed, 50 miles an hour. Average flight, 25 miles, although they actually could travel 2,000 miles. So they were a necessary communication device during the war, and they found a way to be able to get them safely into the war zone. Interesting, one of the pigeons was named G.I. Joe, who carried, and he carried a message to cancel a bombing mission, and in doing so, saved the lives of 1,000 Allied troops, and they were actually given medals. G.I. Joe has his own little statue and his own celebration. Yeah, so thank you to bras and pigeons. World War II had a lot.
So it was difficult to make a bra for a pigeon.
I'm
wondering what it was like for these wartime pigeons to make the combat boots for them.
And little helmets.
Little helmets.
That'd be so cute.
I know. That would have been wonderful. That they just had the idea starting. Unfortunately, World War II came to an end. Homing pigeons were,
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like,
Unfortunately, comments of Nancy, not necessarily those that let that out.
Good pigeon sex.
Well, in terms of little outfits for pigeons, unfortunately. For the rest of the world, it was good.
Yeah.
But for pigeons, not so much.
Pigeon fashion kind of dropped after the war.
Yeah. So moving on, I love that story. December 6th is the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women, which was also White Ribbon Day, and that's commemorated in Canada each December the 6th. December the 7th was National Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day in the U.S. And December the 8th, the humanist community at Harvard was delighted in 1913 to announce that that Governor Patrick issued an official proclamation declaring Sunday, December the 8th, to be Humanist Community Day. And that's throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and is in conjunction with the opening of Humanist Hub. December the 10th, Human Rights Day and International Animal Rights Day. And on December the 10th, first Nobel Prize in Physics for William Röntgen for his discovery of X-rays. Nobel Prize for Physics awarded to Pierre and Marie Curie in 1903. And then in 1935, the prize for chemistry awarded to Pierre and Marie Curie's daughter, Irene Gillet-Curie, and her husband, Frederick Gillot, for the discovery of artificial radioactivity. What a family. And that, dear listeners, brings to a close another passing parade of interesting, mundane, unusual, and occasionally bizarre events and people that make up this day in history.
Stop with the pigeon, Cole.
The best part is, I used to own a pigeon.
Thank you.
Does
Nancy.
it sound like a pigeon?
Yeah, it does.
Well, okay, I had pigeons, and the reason I talk about pigeon sex and the whole thing, I had pigeons living outside of an apartment.
What's with you today? Talking about you're all over the map today.
And you were talking about me being happy and chipper this morning?
And these pigeons would. Do you know what it's like to get woken up to good pigeon sex?
Oh, I think you've talked about this before. Outside your window. No, but my pigeon, it wasn't
This is what the
technically
show's
mine.
come down
It was
to?
my older
We're talking
sister's.
about pigeon sex?
She.
There is no God. Okay?
You know, we're live on Facebook right now, and people are listening to us talk about pigeon sex.
Hi,
right
people
now.
on Facebook.
Hello, people on Facebook.
He would come and sit on your head.
I apologize.
No, but the best part is the SPCA had to capture him because he was a wild pigeon, because he kept on trying to land on old ladies walking down the street. So then they had to capture him, and then we adopted him, and then he would just ride around on your head.
That's all he wanted to do. He just wanted to run around on your
A lot of birds like to do that. They like to be a bit higher than you.
It's a perch.
I know a bird that would probably much rather eat your head.
My bird.
Yeah, my former father-in-law raised pigeons, and he was a member of a racing club, and it really was nice because he cared for those pigeons so lovingly, and to walk in the little coop where they all were, just to listen to the pigeons was very calming. It was a lovely hobby.
So everybody appreciate pigeons today.
Yeah.
Appreciate pigeons.
I know there has to be a pigeon appreciation day someplace.
One thing from the show today is
appreciate
you need to appreciate
the pigeon.
Oh my God. Okay. Before we go talk to our guests, let's do our segment that we all love, called Another Brilliant Moment.
Brought to you by Religion.
Kirsten, you stole it from me. How could you?
Doesn't matter. Oh, okay.
Why do I keep thinking about I Dream of Jeannie? Like, every time I hear this song, that's all I can
because
see.
it is. Well, you guys heard that Australia, like we were talking earlier on, has legalized marriage equality. And did you think that the great pastors of the U.S. would remain quiet about this?
Of course not.
Of course not.
Okay, there's the first thing. Great pastors of the U.S.
In the wake of the news that Australia had voted overwhelmingly to legalize marriage equality, extremist anti-LGBT pastor Kevin Swanson. Doesn't that sound like a TV dinner?
It does.
It does.
He dedicated his radio program warning the nation that will soon feel the unrelenting wrath of God.
He does realize he's talking about Australia. Yeah. They deal with that every day.
Yeah. Quote, God's judgment will come, friends, he said. God will hold them to account. Paraphrasing the words of Jeebus, Swanson declared, I say to you, Canada. I say to you, Australia. I say to you, United States. And we'd be more tolerable for Tyre and Sidon on the day of judgment than for you. And you, Capernaum, which was exalted to heaven, will be brought down to hell. if the mighty works for what the hell is he talking about?
He's insane, so it can kind of get hard to read.
Okay, so all right, so don't travel to Australia, but on your vacation, travel to Sodom and Gomorrah. Apparently, it's a nicer place.
Yeah. Well,
if there's a way to inject fear mongering into anything, I suppose even baking chocolate chip cookies to evangelicals and the conservatives will find a way to do that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of LGBT, it's a gay miracle. Jesus has two dads.
I know, right?
Religious conservatives freak out after viewing a viral gay nativity scene with two Josephs. A viral image of a gay nativity scene with two Josephs has many people cheering, but as one might expect, religious conservatives are not so happy. The image was well received by many, but some conservatives were angry about the lighthearted nativity set in an LA neighborhood. In particular, Roman Catholic Bishop Thomas Tobin is outraged by what he considers to be a sacrilege. He basically was saying, for example, what happened there is they have two Josephs dressed in pink.
Oh my gosh, they were dressed in pink too.
Yes, they're dressed in pink.
Was Jesus wrapped around in a LGBT flag?
No, but that's a good idea, though.
That would be really cool.
Swaddled in rainbow colors.
Yeah, next year, rainbow flag.
So he says, the bishop says, how sad that someone believes it's okay or funny or cool to impose their own agenda on the holy birth of Jesus.
Did he just
really
listen? Did he just say that and then just play it back to himself and be like, oh, wait a second?
I was thinking the same thing, yeah.
As if they don't put their own agenda on the entire Bible.
No, Nancy, they're oppressed.
They're oppressed.
Oh,
don't
they're
you know?
so oppressed. There's a war going on now, Nancy. A war against Christmas.
Pray for those who did so for the change of heart and that Jesus will forgive sacrilege, this attack on the Christian faith. Because we know Jesus got no sense of humor. So others joined in, they were saying, what a blasphemous display of hatred towards our blessed Lord. Or, that's an absolute disgrace to the church and everything it stands for. But some other people were tweeting funnier things. Like one guy tweeted, man, with two dads, now the birth of Jesus has to be a miracle.
Yep. No lying about that.
Yeah, the poor oppressed majority. What are we going to do with them?
Oh, I know. It's so sad. So, another story. A self-described prophet for a new fundamentalist Mormon cult has been arrested after being found with 4 young girls.
Are you serious?
2 of them weren't his own.
Wait, 2 of them were?
Yeah, apparently. Samuel Warren Schaefer, who reports himself to be a prophet and the head of the Knights of the Crystal Blade.
That sounds
that's
friendly.
That's not a bad name, though. Knights of the Crystal Blade.
That is kind of cool.
It sounds like a Nancy Drew novel.
It does. Gotta give him an A+. He was arrested as a result of an Amber Alert issued for Haiti Coulthard 4 and Dina Coulthard 8. Their grandfather, Stephen Sobel, confirmed to the news later that night that he said the girls were found in a storage receptacle.
In a storage receptacle?
Yeah.
What is that?
I don't know, a Tupperware box.
He had them locked in a closet?
Well, see what happened is the mother of the girls basically told Fox News that she believed the ex-husband joined the Schaefer and his religious sect called the Knights of the Crystal Blade, and they are with a man that calls himself Samuel the Seer, she said, and his name is Samuel Warren Schaefer, and he believes he holds the key to this dispensation, and he has been many people throughout history of time. So this guy believes that he's just been reincarnated as Jesus and Buddha and all that crap. So he was arrested on 2 counts of child kidnapping and 4 counts of reckless child abuse. He's part of a cult that essentially marry off girls at a very early age.
Oh, so disgusting.
And the Mormon, yeah.
But how strange to use the phrase storage receptacle.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just, what in the world? We'll have to look it up and see what what were they thinking when they... regardless of the story, my mind...
Have there been previous girls?
Why haven't they charged him with human trafficking? Because that sounds like this is what's going on.
You guys don't understand. If you place the girl in a storage receptacle, you keep him fresh. You just gotta burp a little bit, and then you keep him fresh.
Gotcha.
Then you can just open it just before the wedding.
So if you go to if you go to Walmart, can you go to the storage receptacle department?
Yeah,
and then it'll
absolutely.
tell you how to store your girls.
Yeah. Then you wrap it up with plastic.
There's probably instructions there.
Instructions on there. Yeah, it's certified for.
Dear human trafficker, now that you've bought one of our fine products.
But with this cult, have there been previous girls that they've married off already?
It's Mormonism, yeah, of course. Obviously, many girls have been taken
obviously,
out, especially around Texas. We had the same thing here at Bountiful in BC.
Yeah,
right?
obviously he wasn't wearing the magic underwear.
Yeah, obviously.
Or he wouldn't have been caught.
No, I think the magic underwear only protects you from physical harm. Like if you get shot by a bullet, then you know.
The force field activates.
Exactly.
I'm just mystified.
Some people, man.
Okay, here's another story. Now, this sounds like a sermon that would be delivered in Uganda, but it's actually from the mouth of an American pastor in Arizona. This is conservative Christian pastor Stephen Anderson openly called for executing every gay person in America during a Sunday sermon at his church in Arizona. He claimed from the pulpit that the gays need to be put to death in the name of God by Christmas Day in an effort to wipe out AIDS.
So,
citing
in America,
my head hurts.
does that count as hate speech?
They don't have the same laws as us.
I know, but I'm just like, how?
They have freedom of speech in the
Like-
United States.
Yeah,
They're allowed to say whatever they
Here in
want.
Canada would be
I
insightful and
think there's a line somewhere. I think if he had said, "Here's all the weapons that we're going to use. We are now going to get up and do that." At
Right.
that point,
Then he's Charles Manson.
Seriously?
It
So-
might be
so-
hate speech because it is they are targeting one particular group of people and saying that harm should be brought to them. But I think unless he says we're going to get up and do this now, and I'm taking you, it can't be
Wow.
an actual act.
No, exactly. Until
But
they
it's a
actually,
threat.
until they actually incite violence, they're free to actually say.
That's not
Here in
incitement.
Canada, they would be arrested for inciting.
Yeah.
That's the difference between the two countries.
Wow.
I think I'll have to.
So this guy thinks that eliminating the gays is going to wipe out AIDS.
Does he not realize that AIDS isn't just between gay people?
exactly.
It's not like there's like a genetic marker where it's like AIDS attaches to if you're just gay.
And he says, if you turn to Leviticus, because that's a good source.
Yep.
2013, because I actually discovered the cure for AIDS, he says. It says, if a man also lie with mankind as he lied with a woman, both of them will have committed an abomination, blah, 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 shall be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. And that, my friend, is the cure for AIDS. That's exactly what he said.
What?
Does he realize AIDS can be transferred by blood? Like,
In their mind, it's obvious in his mind, all that matters is if you eliminate the gay population, AIDS will stop somehow magically.
wow. Does he think it's like a sentient being that's just like, oh, there's still gay people, I can still spread?
No, but these people have a tendency to think that it's the wrath of God to send a disease like
Wow.
that. So,
Because he's such a loving person.
yeah. So, then he says, no homos will ever be allowed in this church as long as I'm pastor here. Don't worry, buddy. Nobody's going.
The best part is there's probably at least like 5 to 10 people with non-heterosexual urges sitting in his congregation.
Yeah, so.
They can be taught not to do that.
Sadly, yeah.
Yeah. See, that's how it works.
It's your
It's a choice.
actions,
It's a choice.
not your feelings.
I hate to make that link, but the problem is this is exactly the kind of speech that started in the churches in Germany, but it was aimed towards the Jewish population before.
Yeah.
That's right.
the
They
rise
can
of
be
Nazism.
taught not to be Jews.
Yeah,
that's right.
They can be taught not to be gays. They can be taught not to be Jews. We can purge them.
We can purge them.
And
Oh,
I
no,
don't
we'll
like to jump to
relocate
Nazi
them.
Germany. That's exactly what
We'll
happened.
relocate
Well,
them. I
this
believe
is-
that's
this
the
is-
term
this
they
is-
used.
This is what is being encouraged by what Trump is doing to immigrants and to the LGBT community and voter suppression. I mean, he's using so many different ways to divide people, and unfortunately, there's that segment of the population that says, oh, goody, now we have an excuse to discriminate and exclude because we're the pure white guys who should be the masters of our own country, so we're justified in excluding and treating these people as second-class citizens, or trying to get rid of them altogether. And it just plants those seeds. It says, yes, it's okay to do that, and it is scary. It really
Well,
is.
right now it's easy identified targets. I believe that throughout history, despots have done this pattern. So they'll start with the LGBTQ, and they start with the
Jewish
foreigners, right? The illegal immigrants. But then it'll go to which group don't we want now? See, we've gotten rid of the foreigners and we've dealt with the LGBTQ community. Well, I know we're going to go after the people who have cancer.
Yeah.
We're going to go after the people who are mulatto. They came from mixed race marriages. So we're going to go after those people. Hey, let's take out the people with we've got genetic testing now. You might get a disease. We're gonna kill you because we don't need your genetic code here.
Exactly, and there are two cases that are in front of the U.S. Supreme Court now that is really going to be a marker. One case is the Masterpiece Cake case that had to do with the two guys in Colorado, the two gay guys that wanted the cake, and the baker said, "Heck no, I don't believe in same-sex marriage, so I'm not baking that cake." And so that has to do with religious freedom and discrimination. And the second case is the Muslim ban that Trump put into effect, and the Supreme Court says the ban can remain in effect until we hear it. And it's just been heard by two federal courts. That's going. So the way that court now decides on who is a threat in terms of immigration and countries and individual discrimination against people rather than their nationality, and the Masterpiece Cake, who should be discriminated against, or who should have an accommodation, or who should have religious freedom. Those two cases are going to set where our country goes from this point on. And they're both coming up this
I'm pretty
term.
sure it's in the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not bake cake for gays. I'm sure it's there. I've seen it somewhere.
So
that was commandment number 26. Those tablets weren't.
Well,
released.
thank you guys. Thank you so much for that. So we're going to take a pause right now. We're going to go to commercial. We're also going to pause our Facebook recording here, and we'll be right back with Ian Bushfield.
Bye, Facebook people.
So stay with us.